Hello, my friends, and welcome to This Week in Space. This is my weekly offering to the cosmos, where we go over the transits of the week to help you all figure out what's going on, what's going down, how to show up, how to bob, how to weave, how to float like a butterfly, how to sting like a bee. So come on in to my super secret wizard lair, get comfortable, grab yourself a beverage, and let's talk. Let's talk about space. And let's talk about what's going down in the celestial spheres this week. So come on in, welcome, hello out there. My name is Joan Emerson Bell. I am an astrologer, and yeah, that's what I do. I'm an astrologer and practicing wizard. Um, and I like to go through what's going down in space to this is partially for me, so that I know what to expect and how to navigate the trials and tribulations of life. What's up, Gina Maria? Welcome back. I'm glad that you're feeling better. Nice to see you out there in cyberspace. Before we really jump into it, I got a couple cool announcements of stuff that's happening in the not so distant future. First up, I'm going to be doing a four-part lecture series with the Bad Pastor Lindsay Turner and one of their collaborators. This is going down at the end of October, right around Halloween time, and we're going to be doing a four-part series on possession and exorcism from a um, uh, theological lens, from a psychological lens, and from an astrological lens. So I'll be Lindsay and Sarah will be doing a two-part talk on the theology of and practical applications of exorcism, and I'll be doing a talk on the 30th about exorcism and possession from a psychological lens, which I'm super excited about. And we'll be looking at that through, psychology and cross-cultural lens. And then on, I believe, November the 4th, we'll have a round table or a discussion, a panel discussion. That's what I mean, on possession and exorcism from a astrological perspective. Um, um, Gina Maria is asking why wizards are great and witches get a bad rap. I go by witch wizard. I think that they're all my folks. They're all my people. So if I don't think that witches should get a bad rap. I love me some witches, and I love the witchcraft, and I love the old ways. Um, so anyway, I'm doing that. There will be lots of I'll be posting stuff about that in my stories and on Instagram and on my website as that sort of comes down the pike. So just keep an eye out for that. I believe it's the 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th of October, and then again on November the 4th. So that's pretty exciting, four-part series on possession and exorcism. And then the other cool announcement that I wanted to just bring in real quick before we get this show on the road is I am going to be co-facilitating a retreat in Greece, looking at sacred waters and sacred springs. And this is going down next September in Epidavros, and I believe we'll be doing some expeditions to sacred waters in Greece. So this is happening around solstice time, equinox time of 2025 in September. But there is a flash sale that's happening. I'm seeing if we can extend it one more day so that I can get a chance to announce it here. But I'll put a link to that in my stories. And yeah, that's going to be super exciting. Space is very limited. I think only 10 people, but we're going to have a bunch of amazing people who are going to help contribute to this retreat. It's a week-long retreat in Greece next September. So keep an eye out, excuse me, on my stories and I have, excuse me, I have a post up in my feed on Instagram, so you can check that out. And there's links to book your ticket today. So if you're interested, check that out. It's going to be a great time. And with that, that's all the announcements that I have for right now. And let's get this show on the road. All right. So, how was that eclipse for y'all? How's everybody doing after that? Um, hmm. Um, I think we had the partial lunar eclipse last Tuesday, September the 17th. I talked at great length about ideas of flooding and high water and tides rising and getting washed away or swept away, and really thinking about what kind of like life vessels, what life rafts, what sort of discarded debris we can hold to, right, to help us to float, to think about what's the arc that we're building, the places that are supporting us and helping us to float upon the rising tides of the Piscean eclipse. And so I'm just curious, like, what came up for y'all? What were you able to hold on to? Right. And what were you able to have faith in that helped you to float on the deep emotional waters of this eclipse? And, last week I sort of talked about the ark from Noah's Ark as like this symbol of faith, right? The thing that we have faith in that allows us to sort of weather the storm, you know and I think on the flip side of all of this, when we get activated, when we get overwhelmed, there is the tendency, right, to cling to anything that makes sense, you know and I think that eclipses are this opportunity to change and an opportunity for transformation. Somebody saying ancestral work, guides, spiritual and human guides, awesome. I think that those are great things to help buoy us through the storm, through the rising tide, right? And I think, you know, the things that we are able to have faith in, that, well, let me back this up a minute. I think that this eclipse, or eclipses in general, are times for transformation, for change, and they show us what's really important, what we want to hold to, what we want more of. And this was a North Node eclipse, right, which is pulling us towards the things that we want more of, right? And then there's the other places where we get activated, we get nervous, we get scared, and so we cling to things, right? We're like, this is what I know, right? And like, this is like, I got this, right? And I think those places where we're holding on, right, and holding fast, perhaps that prevents change from occurring. And I think that this is sort of the subtlety of an eclipse. And an eclipse is a big sort of event, right? And it like rises and hits this point and it feels like really activating, but I don't think like everything changes in a moment, right? I think it unfolds slowly over months and even years, right? And to think about what we are holding on to and what we are reaching for, And sometimes if we're holding on to something, it prevents us from reaching for something else. And sometimes we hold on to the thing that we think is safe because we're afraid, we're activated, right? We're clutching to like some driftwood and we're being like, I can't let this go, right? Meanwhile, like our homies are on a boat and they're like, yo, just come over here, right? Or like we're holding on to this rock and we're like, this is keeping me safe, right? And our friends are all on the boat and they're like, yo, just drop the rock and grab the rope, right? And we'll pull you up. You're like, but I can't. This is all I know. This is all I've ever had, right? And so I think that, as we're in this eclipse portal, right, um, to think about what we are holding to and what we can reach for, and I think that the things that we are holding on to for dear life might prevent growth, right? Because like when I'm holding on to this, it might be like kind of uncomfortable, but just comfortable enough, and I don't think that growth occurs when we're comfortable, right? Growth happens when we're uncomfortable, right? Because no one is ever like, things are going great, everything's amazing, I'm gonna do some really deep inner work and like grow, you know. We do that intense growth when the things that we've been doing aren't working, when the things that we've been holding on to aren't helping us anymore, and we need to like let go, and it's terrifying, and we need to like do a bunch of work to do something else. Um, uh, and so, I think that we can think about what growth might look like, right? And what the things that we're holding to that are just comfortable enough that are preventing us from maybe like taking that next step and taking that next leap. And we can think about how we cultivate that faith. And Pisces is a sign ruled by Jupiter, right? So it has a lot to do with faith and how we can have faith in that thing to carry us over to the next thing, right? Ooh, Libra South Node in the eighth house. All right, so somebody's getting some nodal action going on. I'm curious if it's in the early degrees or the late degrees. Have you had your nodal conjunction yet? Or your nodal return, exact nodal return yet? Um, okay, so I just wanted to sort of well, let me check the comments real quick. Yeah, so somebody saying Pisces in the 12th house, so maybe hitting differently. Yeah, I imagine in the 12th house, it's sort of like hitting under the surface, hitting in hidden places, right? Also, maybe the 12th house traditionally is the place of self-undoing or the place of undoing, right? So maybe it's like letting go of some things or needing to examine the things that we like are undo, the ways that we undo ourselves, right? The ways that we throw up roadblocks for ourselves or fuck ourselves over, right? 12th house can be like self-sabotage, so it might like bring up some I want to like blow up my life and run away, right? Or I want to like sabotage this thing that's working, right? um okay. uh oh no. Oh no, I'm so sorry for your car, Jeff. Oh, that's such a hard loss. Okay. Yeah, that's a real bummer to lose a friend like a car. Okay, and so yeah, you're getting the nodal return is pretty exact. I believe the nodes are at, what is it today? 6 degrees. Okay, so yeah, um, pretty recently just passing over the south node, conjunct your south node. Um, Okay, so just a little recap, because last week we talked mostly about the eclipse in Pisces, but yesterday, the September the 22nd, Sunday, September the 22nd, was the autumnal equinox, which means that the sun entered into the cardinal air sign of Libra, which Jeff was just mentioning that as soon as the sun entered Libra, their car died. Their car of 18 years died, which is a total bummer. Um, and with the autumnal equinox, with the sun entering into Libra, we get this balance point, right? It is the one of two times during the year we hit this perfect balance of night and day being of equal length. And now in the northern hemisphere, we are moving into fall and winter. So little by little, the nights are getting longer and the days are getting shorter. Right. And so Libra speaks about this balance point. At the moment that the sun enters into Libra, we get that kind of equinox moment, that totally balanced point, right? That only exists for a moment and only exists for 2 moments during the year. And I think that it's an important thing to acknowledge is that moment of balance where the scales are balanced. And Libra is represented by the scales, which is the only symbol in the zodiac that is uh, non-sentient, right? The scales are the only inanimate object in the zodiac, which I think is kind of interesting because it sort of leaves the subjective and comes into the objective. What is objectively balanced here? What is objectively in harmony, right? Without the sort of wills and desires of the human or the animal, right? It's just like this is balanced or this isn't balanced. And for this one moment, during the autumnal equinox and a one moment during the spring equinox, the vernal equinox, we get this, complete balance, this harmony between the night and the day. Right. And I think it's interesting to notice that, to sit with that, right? To find that sense of balance in the self. And this is a moment when I think that the external world can really reflect the internal world, and vice versa, right? There's kind of a relationship that we can come into in that moment of balance and harmony and be like, okay, what is my balance point? I think that this is always a great question to ask. Where am I in balance? And where are my scales balanced, and am I holding too much on this side, or am I not holding enough on this side, right? What is the right amount for me? And I think being able to notice what that point is, that balance point in the self, is really helpful, because that gives us information about when we're out of balance, and if you're anything like me, I don't realize that I'm out of balance until things are totally out of whack, right? And again, it's I'm really sorry about your car, Jeff, but that also might have been something that was out of balance. Holding onto a car for 18 years, although you love it, and it's like really important, might have like there might have been concessions that are made in other areas to like support this thing, right? To one thing that is like weighing on one pan of the scales, and being able to like let something go so that we can come into a better sense of balance might be really important. And yeah, again, like I don't realize I'm out of balance until things are totally out of whack. And one of the things that I'm trying to practice is knowing what that balance point is in myself, and what that sense of alignment feels like in myself, so that when I move out of that, it is easier for me to come back to it, right? It's easier for me to notice, okay, something is amiss here, right? Digestion's off, or like I'm getting cranky, or like, I'm being distracted, or any of these little signs that show that things are not in alignment for me. And so being able to notice that and to come back into that sense of balance and alignment. And so in this sort of hermetic axiom of as above, so below, right? To think about, okay, if the world hits this balance point for one moment, what does that one moment of balance look like for me? And how do I find that? And how do I know that that's like when things are out of whack? And how do I return to that? So, also on Sunday, September the 22nd, we had Venus in Libra squaring Pluto in Capricorn. And this is kind of an intense one. Square is a hard aspect. This is also happening at, yeah. And Angelica says, just keep ignoring things till the problem is totally my jam. I love that. Yeah, if you can't beat your problems, just join them. Um, Oh, hell yeah. And Jeff is saying that this is also an opportunity to ask a company for more money as an artist, and standing up for justice. Yeah, right. And that also like helps to bring things into alignment and balance, right? Being like, okay, like this thing, like I've just been sitting with this thing for so long, and now it's kind of out of whack, and now I need to like step up and balance the scales by being like, I'm important here. And I think actually, thanks for bringing that in, because I think one of the shadow sides of Libra can be people pleasing, right? And being like, no, I'm good, right? Y'all like here, you take this, I'm good here, right? Making sure everybody's happy, making sure everything's in harmony. And we can like really forget about ourselves and our needs, right? And being like, if everybody's good, I'll be good, And so what happens is we like tend to give everybody else, right, on the like put everybody else in one pan of the scale and make sure that they're all right, and then we're not necessarily getting our needs met until we freak out and then need to rebalance it, right? And like tip the scale and are like, oh my god, everybody takes too much, right? Or like, I never get my needs met, or I'm always doing things for other people. And one of the ways that I've been thinking about Libra is like, how do we move from being like, I'm this pan and you're this pan, right, into being like, I am the center, I'm the fulcrum point on the scales, right? So I am able to, you know, not necessarily it's me or you. It's like I am balancing, I'm able to hold multiple things, right? And I am able to know what the balance is so that I can keep things in harmony without sacrificing myself or without abandoning myself. And I think that's super important. So like part of the lesson of Libra, and this comes from the opposite sign of Aries, right, the polarity point there, if you will, is being able to notice what I need, what my needs are, and how that fits into the greater whole. And I think we're getting a lot of this lesson through the nodes moving through the Aries Libra axis, and through letting go of like people pleasing tendencies or self abandonment, in favor of like keeping everybody else cool, and learning to ask for what we want and ask for what we need. And the crazy thing is when you show up for yourself and you're like, hey, these are my boundaries, these are my wants, these are my needs. I need to make more money in this situation because I'm worth it, right? It helps other people to show up for themselves as well, right? It doesn't take away from other people if you're like, this is what I need, right? And that's like kind of counterintuitive in some ways, right? If we're coming in with the mindset that like, I'll be good if everybody else is good. If we reverse that and we're like, if I'm good, then everybody else can be good. Amazing things tend to happen. Um, I'm just going to check the comments again. Um, Libra rising, choosing between two jobs now. Um, ooh, yeah. And deciding can be, yeah, excruciating and really difficult, you know. Um, and, being able, and I think, like weighing the options, right, in the Libran sort of thing. And Libra also has a lot to do with justice, right? So we can think about, what brings justice to this situation? What brings justice to me? What brings justice to the community? What brings justice to my neighborhood? What brings justice to my family? What brings justice to the global community? What brings justice to the environment, right? And we can move outward and outward from the self. But I think that sort of being able to balance what is just here, I think is a really great thing to put on the scale. What is the ideal of justice and what brings justice to the most people involved? You know. Thanks for all the comments, folks. I'm gonna try and keep up with them and also like read my notes and deliver all the information. So if I miss your comment, I apologize, but I love this engagement. I'm glad that everybody's in a chatty mood today. And that might have something to do with Mercury, who is like all up in the mix in the astrology this week. Um, I'm just gonna continue our little yesterday Sunday wrap up, because there was a lot going down. Because not only did a lot of self-advocating and negotiating. Right on. I am a big advocate of self-advocacy, right? Um, uh, yeah, and how to create justice without tipping the scales too far in the other direction, right? And I think one of the things that we can get is an expanded view, right? Because I think that it can be, you know, um, we can get very wrapped up in the moment, right? And be like, this is the most important thing right now, which I think is really valid. And also, how do we look at this on a longer time scale, right? How do we think about justice multi-generationally? How do we think about what is just for 400 years, right? Instead of like, this is what I need right now. How do we make decisions now that really privilege the effects that are going to unfold over multiple generations? And that can be really hard to do. And I don't think that we're really trained to do that in late stage capitalism, where the ethos is take the money and run, right? Or I need to get my needs met right now. Or if I don't do this, if I'm not okay right now, I'm gonna die. Because I think that there is the threat of like poverty and failure that is constantly like held over everybody. So it can make our decision making process come from a real like activated survival state, which makes it really difficult to think about, okay, what is this decision? How is this decision possibly going to unfold for my kids and my kids' kids and everybody in my neighborhood's kids, right? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, spoken like a true Pluto in Libra. generation person, justice over multiple generations. Exactly, right? And I think that's really important. And I think that a lot of the, again, ethos of the culture does not consider the impacts of our decisions now, right? And we're not taught to consider the impacts of our decisions now. We're just like, whatever, they'll deal with it, right? And yeah, is it fear or fairness? And so really considering how, my decisions impact the web of life that I'm living in, right? And I think that we are all in this interconnected web of life, and the decisions that we make ripple out, not just like horizontally through the human realm, but also in the ecological, in the animal realm, and also vertically, right, in the celestial realm. And one of the ways that I conceptualize astrology is that we're living in this interconnected universe, and our decisions here on Earth are impacting and affecting the planetary energies in the celestial realms and vice versa, right? So when we do our Saturnian work, for example, that makes Saturn's life easier, right? It loosens their load, it lightens their load, it brings them joy when we do the hard work, right? When we are disciplined, when we are dedicated, when we are taking action over a long period of time to make something real, that makes Saturn smile, and that brings ease to the Saturnian realm, to the Saturnian sphere. Right. The same thing with the sun, when we stand up and shine our light, right? When we speak our truth, when we step into our authentic sense of self, when we step on the stage and we're like, this is my talent, check it out. Ta-da, right? The sun shines a little brighter, right? And smiles a little bit. And so I think that we are in this reciprocal relationship with the planetary energies, and it's not like the planets make us do stuff, right? We are any more than your boss makes you do stuff, right? Your boss is like, do this, and you're like, okay, like I'm gonna do it my way, right? Or I'm gonna quit, right? Or I'm gonna get a different job, you know. Where we are sort of co-creating with these planetary energies, and we are in relationship with them, which I think is an important thing to remember. That's I think a helpful way of conceptualizing what's going on here. It's not like the planets are like, do this, right? We are sort of in relationship with them, and as we act, right, it has an effect on them. And we are maybe like small in comparison, but I think that repeated action over time, right, also influences the collective. And there's collective energy that I think helps to lighten the planetary expression or bring joy to the planetary spheres. So yesterday, Sunday, September the 22nd, Venus in Libra was squaring off with Pluto in Capricorn. This is going down at the anaretic, the spooky old anaretic degree of these cardinal signs. Pluto, of course, retrograding back through the last degree of Capricorn, which will be going on until, I believe, November the 15th, around then. Um, and then Venus, of course, was just entering into Libra, or sorry, just leaving Libra, leaves Libra like an hour or two later on Sunday and enters into Scorpio. And so this is not an easy transit per se. A square is a challenging aspect, right? Planets at cross purposes. We have Venus, who deals with love, relationship, beauty, what we like, what we don't like, our values, and Pluto, Lord of the underworld, dealing with death, rebirth, transformation. It is a planet of power and can bring up obsession, right? So there may be some like obsessive thinking or like relationship obsessions that come up. That have been building over the past week, maybe came to a head and are now starting to dissipate as we move into Libra season. Um, Pluto, I think, is very tied to survival stuff. So, thinking about justice and also thinking about survival, right? What are my needs versus what are the needs of the collective? And when we get activated, it's like, oh shit, I just gotta like take care of me right now. I can't handle any of this, right? And so, human beings, we are wired for connection, right? This is part of our survival needs, is to be in attachment with each other and to be in community. And if that attachment becomes threatened, then it can feel very threatening for our lives, right? We can feel like I'm not going to be able to make it, right? I'm not going to live if, like, a caregiver doesn't return my gaze or take care of me, right? And this comes from infancy, when we can't take care of ourselves and we need our caregivers to be able to help us to survive, right? And so we are hardwired in for connection. And if, like, there is a attachment break in community or in relationship, it can bring up these deep survival fears, like, oh my God, I'm gonna die, right? If this person doesn't text me back, I'm gonna die, right? If I'm not invited to the thing, I'm gonna die. And this sounds irrational, right? But this is from a deep survival place, not a place of rationale. Right. So this Pluto square Venus can bring up these, like, really intense feelings. It also might bring hidden truths about relationships to the surface, right? Pluto, Lord of the underworld, dealing with the kind of unconscious realm. And in the square between our kind of like relationships, and how we love, who we love, what we love, and the unconscious, it might, like, bring things up to the surface, which can be incredibly uncomfortable, right? And Pluto is a planet of transformation. So as these things come to the surface, it might transform our values, how we do relationship, who we want to be in relationship with, right? And this might transform our kind of relationships and connections, right? Through the transformation of our values, which I think is really important, right? That our values continue to shift and transform, but it's not easy, right? And so on um, yeah, and so, like, uncomfortable truths might come to the surface about ourselves, that we witness through relationship, right? Relationship is a mirror that reflects back to us, this is how we're doing, this is who we are, right? We're projecting onto partners, onto friends, onto our relationships, and then they're reflecting back to us, and so there might be some, like, very uncomfortable things that come up through that relational mirror, through the relational container, that make us be like, okay, maybe something needs to shift here. Maybe something needs to shift in me, or maybe something needs to shift in the relationship. But I'm sensing or noticing some truth being revealed here. And so, Pluto represents the shadow, right? And our shadow, which, like I said, might get projected onto partners, or other people's shadow that gets projected onto us. Um, and we might recognize some unhealthy patterns that we find ourselves repeating in relationship. And uh, this Right. This is what Freud called the repetition compulsion, which is where we are continually repeating the sort of relational things, or we're repeating cycles in relationship. And this might come from, feeling like we were unloved by a caregiver and being like, I need to make that person love me. And then we go off into our lives and we find other people who represent that caregiver, and we're like, I will be okay if I can make that person love me. But that person might be unavailable, right? Maybe incapable of loving us the way that we want to be loved. It might not be available, right? So we spend all this time trying to make somebody do something that they're not capable of doing and they don't really want to do. And then we're like, I am unlovable because I can't make this person love me the way that I wanted my caregiver to love me. And this is that kind of, like, repeating cycle, right? And this is an underworld kind of cycle because it's activated in the unconscious through attachments, old attachment wounds that become reactivated through relationship. And so, being able to notice these cycles or these patterns and allow them to transform and allow ourselves to transform through the relational container can be incredibly powerful, but not easy, right? It's not comfortable at all, you know. And I think one of the things that comes up, right, um, around these patterns and around like Venus transits to Pluto, is being able to love the unloved parts of ourselves, right? Because I think that initially it's like, oh, if I just go out and get that, then I'll be okay, right? And we're basically abandoning the unloved part of ourselves, and instead of, like, seeking for an external solution, being able to turn that energy inwards and cut out the middleman, right? And just love that unloved part of ourselves. And I think about the myth of the descent of Inanna, the Sumerian Mesopotamian myth of Inanna, queen of heaven and earth, who goes down to see her sister Ereshkigal, who's the queen of the underworld, and Inanna is killed, and then these two creatures, the Kirigara, go to rescue her, and they go into Ereshkigal's throne room and they show her compassion. Ereshkigal's like, "Oh, my belly, oh, my belly." And they're like, "Oh, your belly, oh, your belly." They mirror Ereshkigal's suffering. They show her compassion. They show her empathy. And through this experience of empathy, Ereshkigal is like, "Oh my God, no one has ever done that. I'm just like down here in the underworld eating mud, drinking dirty water. Like no one wants to talk to me. No one invites me to parties. No one loves me, right? This sucks." And to have people come in and show compassion was like mind blowing for this demonic queen of the underworld. And she's like, "Yeah, like have take Anana back. That's cool, right?" So being able to show compassion to these unloved parts. And yeah, Vera Long is saying the Persephone myth too, which, right, I think is also really key to this encounter, because in the Persephone myth, instead of the willing descent into the underworld, which Inanna undertakes, Persephone is abducted by Hades, right? And we can think about this as having our joy stolen. Persephone is the maiden, the kind of naive maiden who is just like out in the field picking flowers, and Demeter is totally trying to protect her, right, from any of the evils of the world or from growing up in any way. And then Pluto is like, "Fuck that, right? We all need to go through this transformation, right? We all need to go through heartbreak and suffering, right? This is how we grow. This is part of being a human being, right? This is part of our initiation, is to go through these uncomfortable feelings and to sometimes be abducted into the underworld." And James Hillman talks about this as like when we just like go into depression, when our joy is stolen, when we just feel like shit for no reason, right? When our heart is broken, that's like Pluto coming in, just abducting a part of us into the underworld. However, in that in the underworld experience, Persephone moves from naive maiden into the queen of the underworld, right? So she's in touch with the powers of the unconscious. She possesses depth and understanding, and she participates in the process of transformation instead of running away from it or being shielded from it, right? And her mother Demeter also goes through the transformation, right? Experiencing the grief of losing her daughter, of having her heart broken, right? And she also goes on this journey of transformation, which results in the gift of agriculture for the earth, right? And so through us participating in agriculture, we are participating in the cycles of growth and death and rebirth. And oddly enough, the equinox is a time of harvest, right? When we are beginning to harvest the things that have been growing all season and choosing this is what's worth taking and this is what's worth leaving, right? And so the encounter with Pluto provides transformation as well as transformation through initiation, and also riches and wealth, right? So it is like having our hearts broken. It is going through these like difficult plutonic transits, right? It is having our relationships question that allow us to reap some of the gold of the underworld, right? It's like that activation through being like, "Why aren't they texting me back?" Right? That if we can gain awareness of that and turn our attention inside, we are able to sort of recognize, "Oh shit, this is where this is coming from, or this is what this might be related to," right? And I might need to like shift some of the things that I'm doing or the things that I value, right? And I think that there's real power there. And that's the sort of key, right, to Pluto, is that it gives us access to power through being with the discomfort, through going into the underworld, through experiencing the suffering, right? All right. So moving right along, later that day, Venus enters Scorpio, which Venus is in detriment in Scorpio. So Venus have kind of a rough start to the week, right? Venus is out of place and has a harder time accessing resources in Scorpio. Um, Yes, yes, exactly. So Venus and Scorpio wants to go deep, right? Scorpio is like, let's penetrating, it is digging, it is like under the surface. And Venus can feel like their needs are never met in Scorpio, right? There's a level of intensity that they're not able to achieve, especially off of this square to Pluto, where like all this stuff is coming up from the underworld. And then Venus is like, cool, I want to like dive in there, right? And like the thing that I quest for in relationship is like right underneath that. And it might make it really difficult for them to attain, right? And they might feel like they're not getting their needs met, right? In Scorpio, we get a level of connection where like imperfections are revealed also, right? And Venus might need to deal with the gross stuff that comes up from the depths of relationship, which is not just the like fun, cute stuff, right? It is the like really challenging, kind of more difficult clashes of will, or body odors that come up in the intimacy of relationship, that Venus might be like, oh, it's not what I'm into, right? Why can't it just be fun? Why can't we just have fun? You know? Um, or they might not be able to like access the core of a relationship, or the core of a situation, or the core of a person, right? And that can feel really frustrating, right? And Scorpio opposes Taurus, which is the sign that Venus rules. Taurus is about feeling comfortable in the world and about what we possess at a physical level, where Scorpio is more about being okay with being uncomfortable and possession on an energetic or more emotional level. And so that might feel really difficult for Venus, who is like, to be okay, I need to have this thing, right? And Scorpio is like, you can't have this, right? Or like, you have to like really like go all in to have this. And Venus is like, well, that's not fun. That's not cute, right? So it can create a lot of tension here. The other thing is, and Venus, if they don't feel like they're in possession emotionally or energetically, they can feel unsafe. So Venus might always be like, ah, there's like something not right in this space. And that is a really challenging place to be, right? To feel like there's always something out of view, that you're not able to be safe or comfortable in a situation, because like you don't know what's going on, or you don't feel like you have ownership of it. And this can bring up a lot of jealousy, which is one of the sort of shadowy sides of the Scorpio archetype. And Aphrodite, Venus, definitely has a reputation for being jealous, right? And so in the story of Psyche and Cupid and Psyche, right? She basically like torments Psyche and ruins her life, because people are like, wow, this woman is beautiful. Comparable, her beauty is comparable to Aphrodite's. And Aphrodite is like, oh, hell no. And she sends her son Eros, the god of love, to punish her and cause her to be consumed with passion for the vilest of men, right? So basically, like, people are like, this woman's beautiful, and Aphrodite's like, I'm gonna ruin her life, right? I'm gonna make her fall in love with the most disgusting thing around. And so like one of the ways that Aphrodite represents her jealousy is making people fall in love with inappropriate things or inappropriate people, right? She fills people with incestuous desire, or desire for animals, right? And things. And this is one of Aphrodite's superpowers, is she sweeps us away with the passion of desire, and makes us fall for things that are inappropriate. And so we can think about jealousy as being swept away by a passion of desire, which can really mess things up, right? Because we're not thinking straight. And one of the people she screwed over is the Lemnian women, who were infused with a terrible stench by Aphrodite as punishment for scorning her worship, right? So they didn't worship her, and she's like, I'm gonna make you all smell bad, right? And then their husbands all left them for other women, and then Aphrodite drove them to murder all of their ex-husbands. So, like, this is how Aphrodite's jealousy rolls, right? When she feels scorned. So I think in Scorpio there is a high potential for her to feel scorned and make people smell bad and then kill their ex-partners. Right? So we want to watch out for that, and we want to kind of like de-escalate that situation, being like, oh my God, that person's not worshiping me, right? I'm a ruin their life. And so like seeing how we can dial that back just a moment, right? For the, next month or so while Venus is in Scorpio. All right. Moving to this week to present time, and I'll try and wrap this up because I spent way too long on our recap. But we have Mercury in Virgo trining Uranus in Taurus. This is at 27 degrees and 2 arc minutes, going down on Tuesday, September the 24th. So, spoiler alert, what we're getting this week is Mercury trining Uranus, opposing Neptune, trining Pluto, right? So, all of the outer planets and Mercury, which is our mind, our ability to make connections, how we process information. Mercury, the messenger, going from above the celestial realms down into Middle Earth and also into the unconscious realms, or maybe the somatic, right? Carrying the message, bringing ideas, right? Helping us to communicate our experience. And so Uranus, the planet of revolution, of breakdown, of breakthrough, it is outside the box, right? Mercury, again, our mind, our ability to communicate, it is logos, right? It is speech and communication, and it is also fractal of the divine mind, right? So it is Mercury is our sort of connection to the divine mind, to the all, to the everything. So I like to call it the stuff, right? And so with this supportive aspect, a trine is a harmonious aspect, we can get inspiration and new ideas, right? This is an opportunity for insight to arrive. So how do we cultivate that? Um, um, yes, I am saving this live, and also it'll go up on my YouTube, Camp Wizard Camp. And I believe there's a link to that in my bio, whatever. So you can always revisit this. And if you check it out on the YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. I don't know why, but everybody always says that. So I don't know, hook me up. Anyway, Uranus provides the ability to think outside the box, to look outside the box, right? This is an opportunity to open our minds to new ideas. And how we can connect, our thinking process to the idealized vision, how we can communicate that. Uranus, the sort of sky god, right, is this is the ideal. Mercury, the messenger, is like, okay, this is how the ideal is translated to me as an individual, and this is how I'm communicating it to you, and you, and you, and you, right? So Uranus helps us to break down and break through, breaking down old ideas that have constrained us. So this is an opportunity to find new patterns of thinking and communicating, right? So allowing new things to come online. Mercury in Virgo, I think, is about clarity and precision, right? So it's discerning and deciding what is the right thing to communicate. And Uranus provides some insight and sudden revelation about what the right information might be, right? So this is bringing new ideas to displace old ones. And Mercury gives us the ability to conceptualize and communicate these new ideas. Um, you can burn the box if you want to, Gina Maria. I totally support that. Just, remember fire safety because we live in a fire-prone region. And, Uranus also is syncretized with Prometheus, right, who brings fire to humanity. So maybe burning the box is a great gift, right? So, just giving yourself space to oh yeah, Mercury also helps us to connect the dots, right? So we can begin to make sense of things. Mercury is making connections, right? So we might have this like, oh, this is this idea, and it connects to this, and it connects to this, and it connects to that, right? And now I'm beginning to sort of refine and digest it, which I think is Mercury in their exaltation and rulership in Virgo, helping us to refine and get the right information, right? So also, um, Uranus is bringing new things into the system. It might bring excitement. It might bring exciting new connections. It might bring business ideas. Mercury dealing with commerce, right? But the following day, Mercury is going to oppose Neptune. So, like business ideas that you have, like let them simmer and germinate. Don't go like investing all of your money this week, because with Mercury's opposition to Neptune, like although we are inspired with the trine to Uranus, with the opposition to Neptune, things may not be what they seem, and we might not have all of the facts. We might not have all of the information to make really good, sound decisions. So, allow yourselves to sit with this information that's arising. Like, I don't know about acting on it just yet. And so Wednesday, September the 25th, we have Mercury in Virgo opposing Neptune in Pisces. This is happening at 28 degrees, 24 minutes of those mutable signs. So Neptune can be confusing, and it's illusory. It means it's ill and it's for losers, okay? To quote from Babe 2 Pig in the City, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, by the by. Right. So Neptune brings illusion and confusion, right? Neptune or Mercury is our thoughts and our mind, and Neptune can be our emotions and the unconscious waters that flow beneath the surface of life, right? And so there can be misunderstandings and misinformation. And if we are moved by the unconscious waters of the emotions, we can find ourselves acting or thinking or reacting from an emotional place, which might not be that helpful for the clarity that Mercury and Virgo is looking for, right? So Neptune tends to wear some rose-colored glasses, right? And being like things might be too good to be true. So watch out for that, right? There can be a lot of misunderstandings and misinformation. And I think also the mind hates not knowing, right? We don't like ambiguity. We want to know what's going on. So if we have a little bit of information or we see something kind of emerge from the fog, we can cling to it and like try and fill in all the dots around it, right? So we might have like something that seems like it might be good for a business venture, right? Or somebody says, "Oh, this is going to be great," right? And then instantly we're like filling in all the information, cashing the checks like years in the future and investing all of our money in something that like just goes up in smoke, right? So we want to be able to sit with the unknown and sit with the maybe like fog and confusion without leaping to conclusions. Thank you. Right? Because I don't think that it's going to be very helpful. And also think about Neptune is connected with Hypnos, the god of sleep, who carries the waters of the river of forgetting from the underworld, right? And an opium poppy that lulls us to sleep and anesthetizes us, right? And this is also where we get the word hypnosis is from Hypnos, the god of sleep, right? And so we can think about Neptune as possessing these opiate qualities and anesthetizing, numbing qualities, and the power to make us forget and the power to hypnotize us. So we can think about the things that are hypnotizing us and the things that are making us forget not only our sorrows, but our maybe life purpose and mission here. Right. And so, we might find ourselves like watching TV or watching the news, trying to find out what's going on, right? And being hypnotized by the flashing lights and the scrolling of screens, right? That might suck us into buying things or making decisions or like just losing our way, right? And is this sort of like swamp of blinking lights, like the will of the wisp, right? That leads people off of cliffs because they see these blinking lights in the dark and they're like, oh, that must be the way, right? So just watch out for that, right? And watch out for feelings of activation that might cause us to go down rabbit holes or jump to conclusions, right? So this week, midweek, meditation, art, music, contemplation, these all might be helpful practices, right? To help support our mercurial minds from being sucked down a rabbit hole, right? And seeing what kinds of messages are we receiving from the underground waters of the unconscious, right? What are the messages that we're receiving from the emotional waters that flow beneath the surface? And so this is also a good time to pay attention to our dreams, which is a great way of being in communication with the unconscious. And so also on Wednesday, September the 21st, 5th, excuse me, Wednesday, September the 25th, Mercury in Virgo trines Pluto in Capricorn, right? which is, another trine, supportive, harmonious aspect. Mercury and Pluto are homies, right? Mercury, as the messenger and the psychopomp, is one of the only beings that can go to the underworld, hang out with Hades and Pluto and Persephone, and return back, to the realm of the living and the world of the Olympians, right? So, this opens communication to that underworld, to the unconscious. And, I think that we're dealing with this sort of shadow material all through the week, kicked off by Pluto's square to Venus, right? And we're sort of carrying these feelings on this underworld journey, sort of getting insight from Uranus and getting kind of lost with Poseidon, right? And Neptune, and then maybe like having some clarity, right, that we receive in the underworld realms as we are able to navigate the three-headed dog Cerberus and the river Styx to arrive in Hades and Persephone's throne room, right, who give us that information, and this is also, we can think about this in the story of Cupid and Psyche, where Psyche's last sort of journey was to the underworld to get a box of beauty cream from Persephone, right? And so we can think of ourselves sort of entering into the underworld to receive this gift, right? Of information, of knowledge, of beauty cream, however you want to think about it, right? This um, Pluto might help transform the ways that we communicate or bring transformational ideas to the surface. It also might allow for powerful communication. And we started off this kind of rant, right, or this hour with ideas of justice, the sun moving into Libra, right, and the sign of balance and justice and harmony. And so we might have some ideas, some powerful ideas that can bring justice to the world, right? Or that help us to speak justly, right? And to, transform the ways that we are communicating and what we think justice means or feels like, right? And I think that understanding the unconscious is a really powerful thing. Having insight into the unconscious, and we're never going to understand all the unconscious. It's unconscious for a reason. But I think that, little things sort of come to the surface, right? And as we are able to sit with them and be with them and understand them and integrate them, that brings a lot of power, right? And, Pluto rules over riches and wealth, all of which are contained in the Plutonian realms of the underworld, and I think that Pluto helps us to have power and have wealth through not necessarily like oil or gold or metals or whatever. It's through the information that we receive and our way of connecting with ourselves and integrating this information. Pluto also is invisible, right? Has an invisibility helmet, which he shares with Hermes, Mercury, right? And so this might be like invisible things, or the power of invisibility, or the ability to reveal invisible things or things that are previously invisible. Right. So just paying attention to what shows up and what we can see and what we can notice, and the things that were previously invisible that we might like notice the shape of, or begin to get a glimpse of, right? These maybe like invisible emotions or trends or patterns, right? That are beginning to reveal themselves. And I think that nature reveals itself to those who are willing to look, to sit with, right? And we're not going to like find this information by like rushing around, right? We find this information by slowing down, by being in alignment with the Plutonian realms, right? And if you think of the realm of the underworld, it's probably pretty slow, right? There's probably not a lot going on, right? All of the like activity and hustle and bustle of the terrestrial world is maybe the inverse of what goes on in the realm of the shades in the underworld, right? So being able to go deep into what's happening in the internal world and like really slow down in order for those invisible things to reveal themselves, right? So they reveal themselves where they're welcome, right? Where there's space for them. And then, yeah, we still got a couple more things and we're about at time, but let me just see what else, any other interesting things. um, on the day after Thursday, September the 6th, 26th, Mercury enters Libra, right? We've talked a lot about Libra, right? And, Um, how do I want to talk about this? There might be, as Mercury enters into Libra, there might be less fact finding and more socializing, right? Mercury in Virgo is about like getting the right information, finding the facts, just the facts, ma'am. And as they enter into Libra, which is cardinal air, it's about like being social and being communicative, right? And I think Libra doesn't really care about truth as much as it cares that it sounds good, right? And while it's interested in justice and fairness, facts can get sugar coated, right? So it sounds right in order for justice to prevail, right? And so here Mercury is trying to create harmony through communication, through socialization, right? Through socializing. Great ways of creating harmony is through music, poetry, song, art, right? These are all kind of Apollonian arts, right? But remember, Mercury invented the lyre, the instrument that Apollo plays, right? And the sun, who might like we could think of as Apollo, has just moved into Libra as well, right? So really elevating music and art as ways of communicating and promoting harmony. Right. And again, Mercury invented the lyre, which is the instrument that Apollo plays. And Mercury is kind of an amoral trickster who is totally willing to lie or bend the truth to keep the vibe good or to meet their needs, right? So the scales representing harmony and balance, right? And also commerce, and Mercury ruling business and business transactions, right? And so we can think about Mercury in Libra as looking for mutually beneficial exchanges and exchanges where both parties end up happy. Right. So just think about that. And also, like, I think Mercury as a trickster is totally willing to bend the truth to keep everybody happy. And so watch out for that as well. And then the last transit that I want to speak on today, and I'll just wrap this up really quick, is Sunday, September the 29th. We have Mars in Cancer trining Saturn, who is retrograde in Pisces at 14 degrees and 25 minutes of these water signs. So this is a water sign, a water trine. It is a harmonious relationship between these two malefic planets, right? And one of the ways that we can think about this is structured action. Mars is like the gas and Saturn is like the brake. And with a trine, we have them working together. And if you have the gas and the brake working together, then you can drive a car and things are going good, right? You can go when you want to go. You can stop when you want to stop. You can slow down if things are moving too fast. You can speed up if you're going too slow. It's excellent, right? Mars is in their fall in Cancer. And so they're kind of in a hole or in a depression, but Saturn might provide some structure that Mars can use to direct that martial energy. Mars might be feeling a little frustrated in Cancer, right? And so Saturn can help Mars direct that martial energy toward long-term goals, right? Mars in Cancer might be feeling pretty emotional and might be like making decisions from an emotional place. But Saturn might help Mars to control some of their impulses and their emotions, right? And help them to direct that energy and foster patience and focus to do the difficult work. And I think this is the key here, right? There's the opportunity to do difficult work that we don't want to do. There's the opportunity to stay focused on a task. There's the energy to get things done, right? So this is a good day doing work that requires dedication or something that requires us to keep plugging away. And this can also help us to maintain our courage and our energetic stamina, right? There also might be physical self-discipline and the capacity to work hard and long. So this coming weekend, right? Saturday. This transit perfects on Sunday, but great time to do work, to buckle down, to take all that like emotional energy that's been bubbling up through the week and start working on these new and exciting ideas that you got from Mercury trine Uranus, and you can start putting them into practice and making them happen and doing the groundwork and writing the proposals and putting the slide deck together and putting your pitch together and doing your spreadsheets, right? And all that stuff that you're like, oh, that sounds hard, right? This weekend, there's a burst of energy that can be structured and directed towards achieving long term goals that may have been sparked by some information that you got during this week. And so, with that, my friends, I will bid you a fond farewell and wish you all a very happy and productive and safe week in space. Again, yeah, what do I want to tell you? I have a astrology themed radio show, which I try and do every week. I put out the last episode last Tuesday for the eclipse. Usually comes out over the weekend. I'm still trying to navigate that. But it's very much like this, but less talk, more rock. I like to play music that I think really embodies the transits of the week, and then I'll sort of explain it a little bit and play some more songs. So check that out on my SoundCloud, Camp Wizard Camp. What else? Yeah. I don't know, stuff's cool, things are neat. I'm available for astrology readings and tarot readings. So if you're needing some support with these trying and turbulent times, you can find me at Camp Wizard Camp. That's my website, www.campwizardcamp.com. You can hit me up on my DMs on Instagram, which is kind of my preferred way to book readings. Um, you can find me out there. I'm around. I also got a Patreon. I do tarot readings, guided meditations. I talk about stuff, things like that. So find me on Patreon for www.patreon.com/ Camp Wizard Camp. And yeah, I think that's all the astro weather that is fit to print, my friends. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you next week. Same wizard time, same wizard channel. And until then, may the force be with you and be well out there, my friends. All right. Bye now.